Let's start with a bold claim. Turning $500 into $50,000 in 5 years is far more realistic than most people think. And the fascinating part? The math that proves it takes few seconds to understand, but the lesson could change how you think about money forever. Here is what the numbers look like. You start with $500 and add another $500 every single month for 5 years. That is 60 months of contributions. Add it all up and you have personally put in $30,500. The target is $50,000. That means you need the market to generate roughly $19,500 on top of what you contribute. To close that gap in 5 years, you need an average annual return of about 12.5%. Now, before you think that sounds too high, consider this. The S&P 500 has averaged around 10% per year over the long term. The Nasdaq 100, which you can buy as a single fund called QQQ, has averaged closer to 13% over the same period. So 12.5% sits right between two things that have already happened in real markets over real decades. The reason most people never get there is not the math. It is the method. A simple two-phase system, one phase to build your capital safely and one phase to grow it aggressively, does what the market alone cannot do on its own. Most people hear a goal like this and immediately start searching for the perfect investment. They want the hottest stock, the best ETF, the fund that will do all the heavy lifting. And that instinct makes sense. But it is also the reason most people never get there. Here is the problem. When your account only holds $500, even a great return barely moves the needle. A 10% gain on $500 is just $50. That is one dinner out. But if you add $500 from your own pocket that same month, you have just grown your account by 10 times more than the market did. At this stage of the journey, how much you save every month matters far more than which fund you pick. That is what most people miss entirely. This idea has a name. It is called savings rate dominance. It simply means that in the early phase, your personal contributions are doing more work than your investments are. The market is not your engine yet. You are. Once you understand that, the next move becomes obvious. You stop trying to time the market and you start building the habit of feeding it. Applying dollar cost averaging, that is, you pick an amount, in this case $500, and you invest that same amount every single month no matter what the market is doing. It does not matter if the market is up. It does not matter if the market is down. You send the money and you move on. This is called dollar cost averaging, and it removes emotion from the process completely. When prices drop, your $500 buys more. When prices rise, what you already own is worth more. In the early years, your behavior is your biggest asset, not your brokerage account. The goal of the first 3 years is straightforward. You want to reach approximately $19,700 in capital that is safe, accessible, and quietly growing while you keep adding to it. You are not trying to get rich in this phase. You are building the foundation that makes the next phase possible. The first thing you need is a brokerage account. If you are based in the United States, your best options are Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard. All three are trusted, beginner-friendly, and have no minimum deposit to get started. If you are outside the United States, specifically in Nigeria, Ghana, or anywhere else in Africa, look at Bamboo or Trove. Both platforms give you access to U.S. markets and let you fund your account in local currency. If you want the most flexibility and the lowest fees globally, Interactive Brokers works in most countries and requires no minimum deposit to open. Once your account is open, you put your first $500 into a money market fund. These are not regular savings accounts. They are funds that hold very safe, short-term government securities and pay you interest every single month. 3 solid options are VMFXX from Vanguard at around 4.5% annually, SPAX from Fidelity at around 4.4%, and SWVXX from Schwab at around 4.5%. Pick whichever one your broker offers and buy it like you would any other fund. Then you do 2 things. You set up an automatic $500 deposit every month so the decision is never left to your mood. And you turn on dividend reinvestment so every dollar of interest you earn immediately starts earning interest of its own. That is compounding working silently in the background. After 36 months, the math looks like this. You contributed $18,500. Compounding added $1,242. Your balance sits at approximately $19,742. Almost every dollar in that account came from you. At this stage, you are still the engine. 3 years in, you've quietly built something most people never do. A solid financial foundation worth about $19,742. This is where the game changes. The first phase was all about building and protecting your base. The final 2 years are about putting that base to work. You keep adding your monthly $500, but now you move into investments capable of delivering the kind of growth a money market fund simply can't. This is the point where your money starts pulling its own weight. The first step is surprisingly simple. You sell your money market fund. Don't worry, your money isn't leaving your brokerage account. It simply moves into what's known as a settlement fund, which acts like a temporary parking spot inside your account. It sits there for a day or two while you choose your next investment destination. That's it. No complicated paperwork. No bank transfers. No waiting weeks for things to process. The second step is where the real growth engine comes online. You take that entire balance and put it to work in growth-focused investments. The backbone of the portfolio should be either VOO or FXX. Both track the S&P 500, meaning you're instantly buying small ownership stakes in 500 of America's largest companies for an annual fee of just 0.03%. That's practically pocket change. You can then add QQQ, which follows the NASDAQ 100 and gives greater exposure to technology companies. Historically, QQQ has averaged around 13% annually over the long run with a modest 0.2% fee. If you'd like a portion of your portfolio generating income while still growing, SHD is another strong choice. It offers dividend payments and tends to experience smaller swings during market turbulence. And if you're comfortable taking on a bit more risk, companies like NVIDIA, MSFT, and Amazon have been among the market's standout performers over the last decade. These should remain a small side dish, not the main course. The third step will feel very familiar because you've already been doing it. You continue investing $500 every single month. The only difference is where the money goes. Instead of buying money market units, you're now buying ETF shares. You're still dollar cost averaging. You're still removing emotion from the equation. Your behavior stays exactly the same. Only the destination changes. Now let's see what that produces. You begin phase 2 with $19,742. Over the next 24 months, you contribute another $12,000 through your monthly deposits. Assuming an average annual return of 12%, your portfolio grows to roughly $50,160 by the end of year 5. And here's where things get really interesting. Had you stayed in a money market fund for the entire 5 years, you'd finish with around $33,400. Had you invested exclusively in S&P 500 index funds from day one, you'd end up with roughly $40,900. But this two-phase strategy reaches approximately $50,160. Why does it come out ahead? Because you get the best of both worlds. You outperform the money market approach because you eventually harness the powerful growth of equities. And you outperform the all-stock approach because you protected your early capital during the years when a major market downturn would have hurt you most. In other words, you weren't trying to get rich fast. You were building smart first, then growing fast later, and that's exactly what made the difference. Before you put a single dollar to work, you need to know what can go wrong. The 12% return is not guaranteed. The S&P 500 lost 19% in 2022 and gained 26% in 2023. If years 4 and 5 happen to be bad ones, you might land closer to $38,000 than $50,000. The fix is time. Mitigation. Instead of doing 5 years, extend to 6 to 7 years. Time fixes bad years. If you are investing from outside the US, your local currency moves against the dollar in both directions. When your currency weakens, your USD gains look even bigger at home. When it strengthens, you lose a little on conversion. Holding USD assets is already a hedge against that. Funding fees on Bamboo, Trove, and some brokers run 1 to 3% per transaction. Send money monthly, not weekly, to keep those costs down. Finally, the US withholds 30% on dividends paid to non-resident investors. Favor growth ETFs over high dividend funds and speak to a local accountant before Phase 2 begins. Every one of these risks is manageable. None of them is a reason not to start. Here is everything you need in one place. For your brokerage, use Interactive Brokers if you want global access and the lowest fees available. If you are in Nigeria or anywhere else in Africa, Bamboo and Trove both let you fund in local currency with no minimum deposit. For Phase 1, buy whichever of these your broker offers, VIMFXX, SPAX, or SWVXX. For Phase 2, build around VOO or FXIX as your core, add QQQ for growth, and consider SHD for dividend stability. Track your progress free at portfoliovisualizer.com or directly inside your broker app. To avoid paying conversion fees on every single deposit, open a USD domiciliary account at a bank that offers one in your country. Standard Chartered and EcoBank cover most of Africa. HSBC covers parts of Europe and Asia. That is the full toolkit. $500 plus $500 every month for 5 years, 3 years in a money market fund and 2 years in broad equity ETFs, can realistically reach $50,160. The $30,500 you contribute personally does 60% of the work. The market does the rest. The only variable that determines whether you hit that number is not which fund you pick. It is whether you send that $500 every single month for 60 consecutive months without stopping. The math works. The only question is whether your consistency will. Starting with $500 and growing it into $50,000 in just 5 years isn't a fantasy, a lucky break, or some secret reserved for the wealthy. It's a roadmap, and you now have every piece of it. The only thing standing between you and that number is 60 simple monthly decisions to stay consistent. Most people will watch this, feel inspired for a moment, and then go right back to doing nothing. But you're not most people. And that's exciting because every single month from now on is another step toward a future version of yourself that's wealthier, freer, and more confident than the person you are today. If you want more practical, no-fluff breakdowns like this one, real-world strategies that actually work, explained in plain English, like the video and subscribe to Wealth Stack. Every video is designed to give you something useful, actionable, and immediately valuable. Until then, keep stacking, keep investing, and I'll see you in the next one.
If you have learned something today, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Note that this content is purely for educational purpose only.